Hello fellow survivors, and welcome to a short video about a small patch that just came to the Long Dark, version 2.27. This is a small patch that does mostly bug fixes. There's a whole long list of different things they fixed, and that's great. There's always bugs here and there, and they improved the game in a variety of minor ways. There's less bugs in the game now, which is great. However, this patch, although small and mostly focused on fixing things, has 3 changes which are important, one of which is buried in the patch notes. And let's just go through them quickly. The first one is that the Buried Echoes tale is now possible to play as long as you have completed Signal Void only once. That is to say, if you have done Signal Void in one save and then die or start a new save, you can then start Buried Echoes on that one without doing Signal Void. So you don't have to do them both anymore. You can just do Signal Void once and then it unlocks Buried Echoes for all other games, which is neat. The other thing is Scurvy. Now Scurvy is now in the custom settings. You can now go to custom and you can turn this function on or off basically. So this means that you can play the game without it if you really don't like it. And you can also adjust how much it actually works. Essentially. So that's interesting. And an interesting note of Scurvy itself is that on Pilgrim, Scurvy is off. On Voyager, it's set on medium, how your drain rate happens. And on Stalker and Interloper, it's on high, so you get Scurvy faster, basically. So those were 2 changes that they announced at the beginning of the patch. And then there's a whole bunch of notes about different fixes, different things, bugs that happened, and visual fixes, and this and that, and all sorts of different things that are not really worth going into. However, hidden in here, there is one change that is very important, and that is listed on the gameplay here. Gameplay. If you look very closely, there is a message listed here that says, adjusted harvesting of rabbits and ptarmigan to allow for bare-handed harvesting at the cost of a small percentage of meat. And that's really important. What that means is that you can now harvest rabbits and ptarmigans with your bare hands without making the incision cut. So if you're not up to speed, what happened when Buried Echoes was released in December 2023 was that the developers changed a core game mechanic, which was the harvesting of carcasses. So in the past, you could just harvest carcasses with your bare hands. If they were frozen, you had to thaw them up unless your skills were high enough. But other than that, you could use your bare hands right away. And it was very common on interloper runs, especially, to get some rabbits and sometimes ptarmigans early in the game and start harvesting them. However, they changed it so you now had to make an incision to begin harvesting any animals you started, to harvest. And if a wolf had ravaged this, or if you found a carcass, then that would be fine. But if you killed a rabbit or a ptarmigan, then they would not have that incision. So you would have to have a tool to actually harvest a rabbit or a ptarmigan. And if you spawn on interloper, of course, you don't have such tools. The only tool available is the hacksaw. So if you wanted to harvest rabbits and ptarmigans early game in interloper, that wasn't possible anymore unless you found the hacksaw, and if you didn't, you have to wait until you crafted a knife or a hatchet. So that was one fairly major change to interloper runs. However, this change has now reverted that. So what happens now is that you can now, from the get-go, harvest a rabbit or a ptarmigan with your bare hands, provided that the carcass isn't frozen. And what they've done instead is that they've added a penalty, which is that if you use your hands to harvest rabbits and ptarmigans, you lose a small percentage of the meat. It's a similar way to how if you smash open a can, you lose some of the food inside, and this is basically the same thing. And I think that's a good way of balancing it. I mean, it's less refined, right? So that would make sense. And I'm really glad that this happened. A lot of people didn't like that this ability was removed to begin with, especially because in real life, people can skin rabbits and ptarmigans with their bare hands. So it was a bit odd that this was removed to begin with, especially because it's been such a core mechanic for a long time. But now it is back. So if you play an interloper and you were used to getting rabbits and ptarmigans early game, well, now you can do it again. Hurrah! You just get slightly less meat doing it, and you know what? I think that's fine. So yeah, I just wanted to point this out because this is a major change, and it also means that old interloper guides and videos where, you know, I do this in the early game, they're not obsolete anymore, and it's basically back to the way it was before, just with a little loss of meat, and I think we can live with that. Okay, that's it for now, survivors. Thank you for watching, and enjoy your runs.